Kept you waiting, huh?
I could have just made a 1-minute TikTok on this take, but I thought this would be more cinematic. Just 1 second. Now it's art. I remember when I was in middle school, the late 2000s, early 2010s, I graduated to a PS3 360 household and started looking into games that went beyond Mario, Pokemon, Zelda, the good ones, and got heavily invested in internet games discussion. Game Informer and IGN became my best friends. Both were frequent pieces of internet traffic that influenced me on what games I would buy. Initially, my first next-gen game was a vibe I was familiar with, Batman. Arkham Asylum felt like a comic book brought to life. In a similar vein, Greg Miller's review of Infamous opened my eyes to my first PS3 game, and a title that would become one of my favorites in the company's history. Sucker Punch just does not miss. That 900 still really fucking good, okay? But then my attention was diverted to another game. A game that would put Arkham and Infamous, fun superhero fiction, to shame with this title's visuals, action set pieces, and adventure story. A game that truly felt cinematic. As someone who greatly enjoyed adventure movies like Indiana Jones and The Goonies, Uncharted spoke to me on so many levels. The shooting gallery with bombastic cutscenes and set pieces to an incredible score and witty dialogue was a romp that reminded me of great movies. And much like the reviews I read at the time, I felt Uncharted outclassed other games simply because it felt like movies. A form of entertainment that for some reason garnered more respect from adults. Because really, what medium that has the god-awful writing of Grand Theft Auto belongs in the same critical circle as one with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Frankly, I don't think so. Uncharted, as much as I love it, seems to mark the turning point for games wanting to be taken seriously, which, yeah, they should be. But as the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generation is winding down, and we've gotten several stabs at being adult/mature/sophisticated in storytelling on a AAA level, I can't help but just feel tired. I like Breaking Bad and TV drama as much as the next person, but that doesn't mean to be a well-respected narrative or good game that's all you gotta go for. Games have the benefit of player agency being a tool to manipulate enhancing the greater narrative. Unfortunately, those ideas are few and far between, instead elevating solid writing and good performances and being labeled as pure art, better than anything else in the industry. Before we continue, I should mention that earlier this year I replayed Metal Gear Solid 2, and it fully broke me when it comes to appreciating and respecting narrative structure in this medium. Moving on. But in all seriousness, Metal Gear Solid 2 knows it's a video game and is proud of that, using it to its advantage. It places us, the gamer, in the shoes of Raiden, a green player avatar rejecting you the satisfaction of feeling like a badass the way you did in MGS1. There's layers and layers to Metal Gear Solid 2 that we won't get into today. We did talk a lot about it on the channel though, if you're curious. But through its design, it's able to convey its themes and messages about totalitarian control and technology fears to the player in a way that would only be possible in a game. Throw the script, structure, and outline in a movie, and it's any film playing on Sci-Fi at 3 AM on a Tuesday. Now, this approach to storytelling in the medium is rare, but there are other instances of games taking advantage of their form and making it the function of narrative. Life is Strange is a perfect example of this. It's your standard choose-your-own-adventure format, an experience that's existed in novels forever, but the excellence of Life is Strange is that it knows you'll be resetting for the best ending anyway, so it gives you, the player, through the avatar of Max, the ability to undo your choice and manipulate the outcome to your will, with some pretty dire narrative consequences for using the power too much. Now, yes, Life is Strange thematically could be compared to a number of teen-based dramas, but the fact that Life is Strange gives you a meta-level control as a player in-universe as well, through those time manipulation powers, makes it an experience you can't get on TV. You can't rewind Euphoria and then pick a different answer for Zendaya and see what happens. That's just unfit for this medium. Gaming-wise, Life is Strange is a game mechanic first and an emotional narrative structured around that game second. Which brings us to the key, the game that prioritized filmic structure and standard gameplay above all else, inspired many for years to come, The Last of Us. Pausing again, listen, I love The Last of Us and Part 2. They're both incredibly impressive pieces of work in this medium. However, there's a discourse surrounding these games where some would place them narratively as being more impressive works within the scope of this industry than some of the examples I've given or a host of others. And that's where my issue is. When I was 15 and The Last of Us came out, I thought it put Uncharted to shame. It was a work of art and as good as any film I'd ever seen, even better than some. I even tweeted as much. And oh boy, if I ever saw anyone say, The Last of Us should have just been a movie or a show, I would get heated. The sentiment isn't one I had alone, though plenty of other outlets and players praised The Last of Us as revolutionary, so much so that plenty of games on the PS4 generation followed in its footsteps. And now I fully believe you can tell The Last of Us narrative in a filmic format and not lose anything. Yes, you will not have the same exact performance, so it could be reinterpreted in a different way and maybe lose something there. But the messages, the themes, the character arcs, the overall purpose for this work of art existing, it can translate perfectly fine to a different medium. Even Naughty Dog thinks so. Part 2 is an incredibly bold video game that I quite enjoyed my time with. I think it's a game that only Naughty Dog could make and have a fandom level of impact the way it does. However, I think when the story gets adapted to television, it will have the same impact. Across all 20 plus hours the players spend with Ellie, we watch her live her life, make her own choices, and we watch her perform every atrocity she does in game the same way we will on TV. Sure, we kill dogs and nameless characters along the way in gameplay, but we do that less violently in Mario, and just as violently in Far Cry. At a certain point, which we've reached, it comes down to preference, but I don't see how a game that puts so much emphasis on narrative drama can be the pinnacle of a medium that's focused on player interaction. There are plenty of games that take advantage of this unique aspect of the medium to tell an impactful story. No More Heroes is a commentary on social mobility because of its mechanics. Final Fantasy VII Remake gets in the weeds about fandom and respect for creators' vision through tearing down fan expectation through the physical act of killing the past. The Last of Us Part 2 questions who's really the villain through watching characters we like and thought were good hurt each other. And to back up where I'm coming from, an example of this idea being done well in a game form is Shadow of the Colossus. Narratively, it touches on essentially the same exact messages and themes of The Last of Us Part 2. Loss, grief, love, guilt, and a "are we the baddies" element to tie it all together. Rather than watching Wander slay the narratively important characters the way we do as players through Abby and Ellie, we do it in real time. It's our will we're enacting. We, as Wander, want to kill 16 Colossi because we think it'll heal a grieving wound. And we do it. We slay hundreds of people as Ellie and watch her finish off the people who killed Joel, the people who are important to the narrative because she thinks it will help her know peace. And hey, to reiterate, The Last of Us is not a bad game. It's good, it's great even. But it's just not the pinnacle of storytelling in games the way people act like it is. To me at least, I'd much rather prefer to experience a story through a Metal Gear Solid 2 structure or a No More Heroes structure, where the game itself, the aspects of the game are integral to the story that is being told to you as a player and would be lost and less effective if you did not have a controller in your hands. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a game story that could work in another medium. It's the most frequent story structure we get in games and are some of my favorites. Even then, there's an advantage these stories can take since they're games. Whether it be choosing who lives and dies in your story through Fire Emblem or Mass Effect, or being able to exist in a world of nuance and try and find peace through Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption. The game narratives that I think make the most of their medium, their form, and are the pinnacle of storytelling are both rare and hard to make. And if you can't do that at this point, I'd rather just play a fun game with a simple story than one that gets caught up in itself. All that being said, I am looking forward to seeing The Last of Us TV series on HBO. I think it could be great, and hell, I think it could even outdo the original story. It's great the original creators are involved, and because they don't have to mess around with game mechanics and let it breathe the way you can in a game even, I think this could just be it. Cut out all the filler, cut out all the frustrations, and you have a great gripping narrative there. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go back to Yakuza 0, because where else can I get the experience of going to a karaoke bar at 3 a.m., walking outside, getting jumped, chasing him down the street, beating him up, getting my money back, and then seeing a kid who gets his game stolen because there's some bullies that have some problems in their life. They just want to be loved. But what am I to do? What am I to say about their relationships with their parents, where they rest their heads at night? Yeah, it's not cool to bully kids, but I'm gonna go help them because I'm in the position to. I'm ex-Yakuza. I can go out there and live a life that, yes, I could go do this if I wanted to. Maybe I wouldn't be allowed in the Yakuza. TBD. But there's no risk here. There's no risk. I can just be a good person in a game. I can do that. It might take me 80 hours, but you know what? It's paced immaculately. And I think there's something to say about the fact that so quickly they can turn on a dime from being goofy as hell and then truly being some of the most serious high-stakes drama I've seen within this medium. Don't be ashamed to be a video game. I was nervous about this one because I truly appreciate and respect and really enjoy my time with both Last of Us games and the Uncharted series. The Uncharted series is straight up some of my favorite games ever. Personally, I like the Uncharted games more than the Last of Us games because I think Uncharted is still more fun to play, and I think as a game, it just is more in line with the type of narrative I like to engage in a game setting, because the story doesn't get in the way of the gameplay, and the gameplay doesn't get in the way of the story. I think The Last of Us Part 2 is a very impressive game, but to act and claim that it's the most impressive narrative told in a video game ever, no. I think technically it's very impressive, but that narrative was told in Shadow of the Colossus. I'm playing Halo 2 right now. This playing both sides thing, that was told there as well. Like, obviously not to the same extent, but it's a narrative we've seen. That's all. Now I am actually gonna go play Yakuza because I'm tired. Bye.
You know what? I really don't know.